Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Room Podcast, the Spoilercast podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows and video games and we spoil the shit out of them. I am one of your hosts, Tyler, joined as always by James.
As always, how's it going, my friend?
Very good, very good. How are you?
Good, I'm great. Good to be back with Cinema Room. It's been a while.
I know it's been a while with Cinema Room, and for those who don't know, it's since COVID's hit and there hasn't been new stuff coming out, Cinema Room sort of changed a bit, going with the flow. When something new comes out, we'll do a Cinema Room, early access on Patreon, and then it'll come out to the public. But there's not going to be a schedule for it at the moment, and we'll down the road when things sort of open up and things are coming out again, we can readjust and figure out, do we go back to the old way or are we going to just do it when there's something new? We don't know. We'll figure that out then. But at the moment, we're just doing these episodes when something new that we want to talk about comes out, like a new game, like The Last of Us Part 2. So if you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, don't listen to this because it's going to be full of spoilers. So spoiler warning, obviously. And the other thing about this amazing show is, yes, it is early access on patreon.com/as always. And the only reason we do this show is because of the amazing and great producers over on patreon.com/as always. They are King Richard III, Damian, Avry Dobbs, Josh Devillier, Adam Sundling. Since James said my name is a bit too long, I figured I'd shorten it a bit. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's pretty good. Cat94, Viridian, Real Simmer and Hawkins, aka H+12, and Ballsack47. Appreciate you guys for making this show happen. Without you, we really wouldn't be bothered doing 17 podcasts like we do. But here we are. We love what we're doing, and I'm excited to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 with you, James. I've already talked to you and George and Ethan quite a bit about it over text, but we haven't talked about it on chat or anything.
Yeah,
so
true. Should be good.
I'm excited about this one. And we can really dive into the controversy and the divisiveness and our thoughts and opinions on the game and just kind of go through the main highlights of the game. We're not going to go through every, game's fucking long, but we're going to really, cover what we loved about the game, what we didn't like about the game, and all the major spoilers, obviously. So again, if you haven't played it, go play it. It's worth playing, and then come back and listen. And also head over to patreon.com/as always. For just $1 a month, you get exclusive access to the best podcast on the internet, the Clubhouse podcast. There's over 86 episodes you can listen to, including by the time this is out publicly, there'll be a brand new Clubhouse episode that just would have dropped on Patreon, which is very exciting. So thank you to all those Sweet Insiders that are helping support us there. Again, King Richard III, Damian, Avry Dobbs, Josh Devillier, Adam Sundling. Since James said my name is too long, I'm not going to read the rest of the name because your name is simply too long. Cat94, Viridian, Real Simmer and Hawkins, aka H+12, Ballsack47, Casey Wood, Pink Flame 3 on 3, Henry, Sicarius, aka Karen, Kevin Bond, Aminal, Justin, T-Man Travis, Alfie Rosell, Uga, Booga, Chinga, Wooga, Tuga, Muga, Luga, Suga, Vuga, Puga, Ruga, Suga, Zuga, Yuga, Duga, Jesper Olsen, Lima Strad Maria, 5380, Kimasaba Gamer Cream Pies, Seth, Nick the Gaming Prick, Madeline McCann was snapped by Thanos, The Creed, Big Boy Barnsey, Josh J. Anderson, Andy Cure, Fat Fuck Cuck, Froggy Blowjob, At the Bit of Stones, aka BQ Overlord, Matt Simps Elton John, Ravjai, Marquis de Ben, but then also Ben Desart, 1989, Philip Stillwagon, Kyle, Mag, aka the guy who makes his own Assassin's Christmas, loves a lobster up his ass, Greeny's Weenie, Bleeding Edge 274, No Mojo, Benedict Clobbers, Gwen Hughes, 2018, 1998, 20, The Blue Cow, Max H, Gina's doing bits in the coal mine, Owen Brain, Son of a Bitch, OG Doggo, Harrisy, aka Bad Assassin, Noah, Watch Furious Coco, Fickle, Wickle, Suck My Pickle, Sab2557, Star Explorer, Nick Miller, Hey Man, Arith Simp here, aka Jas Notter, Radok, Poplop is not dead, Smexy Dork, Cassassin, Kyle, S. Jaws Marcus, aka Blackburn, Victor Eliasson, Emil Catborg, Joshua Mora, Walshy, Desard, 1989, Ginkgo Swag, Chunky Bit of Cum, Geralt of Riviere, aka Casper Coral, My Dick Quick, Slick, Thick, as hard as a brick in a chick, by the way, my name is Rick, Alexander, Master Bass, Ashton, aka The Weekend Simp, but I don't simp conversations because they suck, Creed Landmarks, Sin, and by the way, Chris Chibnall, can't write a script to save his life and get pegged by Jodie Whittaker. I don't know that reference. But I simp on conversations more. Conversations. Joe the Sexy Boy Smith. Joe the Sex Addicted Cocaine Snorting Founder Scarab aka Marquis de Sade. Give me a penis. Connor's fat collie. Fuck, this list is so long. Connor's fat cock broke me. Evan Brown. Winona Ryder aka Lindsay from Destination Wedding. Luca Alfie Rodbert. A bitter bitten bit. A better brother bitten. And the bitter better bitten bit. The bitter biter back. Liam Fishy. Jack DG 1998. Gamer Vids. Lewis is imploring James and Tyler to watch Marquis 1989 as it is, without a shadow of a doubt, a masterclass in cinema. Billy the Team Dynamite Captain Robertson. And finally, Boogie Woogie Boogle Boy. Thanks to Vintage Lads for helping power this podcast. And we knew after our record month in June, biggest month by far of new patrons, we smashed our goal. Huge. June goal and almost hit July's goal. In fact, we did hit July's goal, but the numbers always drop when the payments. July goal's 250, and then we're at 252. But we always lose decline payments. We always lose a few numbers at the start of each month,
your account.
and then it refreshes. But usually Patreon tries again, and they sort of refresh. But yeah, if you're not on the list, because there's people that are normally on the list, it's because your payment declined, so we didn't read your name. So check your account, and it'd be even longer. But we knew it would be
it honestly has just become such a shit show of bollocks.
Yeah, it's something else. It's something else.
It's really recent as well. Like, it used to be, long but sort of reasonable. Now it honestly is just like
unreasonably long.
It's insane. Like, it's just the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We're gonna have to come up with a way to read it different. I don't know how.
Imagine this is the first podcast you listen to. You're like, oh, I'm really interested to see what these people know. I think about The Last of Us Part 2, and you encounter this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Hopefully you stick with us.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we might have to reinvent the list next year.
I don't know how though.
Yeah, I don't know how either.
Because people love the list and it makes us a lot of money.
I don't know.
Yeah, but then then I just feel bad because it's always been $5.
Yeah,
I know. Fuck you.
It's difficult. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we could always. I don't know.
Just read the list at the end, maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
Producers at the start and the full list at the end.
Yeah.
I think might be a reasonable way to do it, and that way we can just sort of get into the show.
Yeah, true. Discussing business on air once again.
Well,
that's what we do best.
We're on it, and that's why there's no secrets with our audience. And one day it's not going to come out that we've done horrible things.
No, because we talk about it all here, so it's already out that we do horrible things.
You literally just need to go through all the clubhouses and all the Kill Connor clubs, and we've got no secrets of the horrible things we've all done.
No,
it is what it is. But I think it's safer that you all know. The closer you are to danger, the further you are from harm.
Yeah, it's true.
That's how it be. All right. The Last was Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're about to record Clubhouse after this, so I just went and got the list up, and I'm like, oh, wait, we're not doing that yet. Fucking idiot. The Last was Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Controversial. Divisive. James.
It is that.
Tell me your... Let's start this way. Tell me your thoughts going into The Last of Us Part 2. What were you expecting from the game? Where does The Last of Us 1 stand for you? Where's that game sort of fit for you in terms of your favourite games and your thoughts on it? And then leading into this, what were you expecting? And in the end result, how do you feel? Go.
The Last of Us, the first one, I always really liked a lot. I think I liked it a lot more after replaying it. Just because I've probably forgotten a lot of it and forgotten the experience you get when you play it. And then also watching George stream it through for the first time on his channel was really fun because you get to see someone play it and experience this game for the first time, and he had a great time. And just sort of, I don't know, the whole community was really hyped because the sequel was coming out, and so I think it improved my love for the first game, and so going into this game I was really looking forward to it. I didn't have necessarily any expectations, I don't think. I don't think I went into this thinking this is the game I want to see. I guess I had some things that I wanted to see from the game, such as where Joel and Ellie's relationship went after the end of the first game, how Joel's lie came into play and how that affected their relationship and the story moving forward. But beyond that, there's nothing I desperately needed this game to be. I was just looking forward to seeing where Naughty Dog decided to take it. Really, that's sort of the only expectation that I had. Yeah, I think that's where I was at with it. So I don't know whether that affected the way that I perceived the game, because I think a lot of people did have their perfect sequel in mind they've been dreaming up for like the past 7 years, and that might be similar to the way we went into Red Dead Redemption 2, because both of us had a love for Red Dead Redemption 1 and that story, and we had for a long time. So going into Red Dead Redemption 2, we almost had these like things that the game sort of had to do to almost be right, to sort of get things right and do that.
I think
game
the difference
justice.
with that though is Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel.
Yeah, true. But I think that at the same time we had those things, and maybe it makes more sense being a prequel, but I think a lot of people had their expectations and the things they wanted to see in the sequel, so that could have affected people's perception. But I didn't have any huge expectations going into this game. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but overall, you liked it. Loved it.
Overall, I fucking love this game, and I love it more, I think, every day that passes since I finished it, to be honest.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, for me, I probably similar to you, other than the fact that if you know me, you've listened to me talk long enough, I hate zombies. I don't like zombie movies. I don't like zombie shows. I don't like zombie games. I don't like zombie shit. I find it lazy, boring, and uninteresting. I've never liked it. Never liked it. I've never found anything with zombies scary. I've never found even the scare factor of I like a good horror. I like to be scared. Not a thing. So I never played The Last of Us. I was never interested. But I also didn't have a PlayStation 3. I got a PS4 in 2016 when the Uncharted 4 came out, and I played all the Uncharted games. And I'm like, holy fuck, what an amazing franchise. And then it's like, all right, look, I don't like zombies, but I've heard The Last of Us is amazing. It got an amazing story, amazing characters, and it's a Naughty Dog game. I'll give it a shot. So I think 2017, maybe 2018, but I think 2017, I played The Last of Us Remastered, and I was like, wow, like, everyone's saying it's better than Uncharted. Absolutely not. Completely disagree. People saying it's the game of the last generation. I also don't agree. Is it a really good game? Absolutely. Really enjoyed it. For a zombie game, the other thing I guess I used to hear was The Last of Us 1 is, no, it's not a zombie game. There's just zombies in it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I played it. I'm like, yeah. So it definitely is a zombie game though, isn't it? Because it's, lots of zombies. But still really good. And I've never liked anything with zombies in it as much as I like The Last of Us 1. Joel and Ellie's relationship, really great. I already knew spoilers, I knew Joel's daughter died, and I knew that in the end Joel kills everyone and there's no... I kind of knew the spoilers already. Okay. But enjoyed the journey. Had a great time. There we are, sort of thing. So going into this one, I'm more like, okay, look, I played The Last of Us 1 late. Uncharted 4 was already technologically so far ahead of The Last of Us that it felt like I was just stepping back a bit in that way. True. I didn't enjoy in The Last of Us how much it was just all about the action. I felt like there wasn't enough time of just walking, talking, development. There'd be less than 5 minutes, 5 minutes max, and then it's like a zombie shows. Oh, sorry, we'll finish talking about this after. Let's fight the zombie. And I'm like,
I don't actually agree with that. After replaying it, I don't think the game was like that at all. I think it perfectly balances both. Maybe not perfectly. And I think it's a bit lesser in the first half. I think the first half of the game, or maybe the first quarter of the game, a lot of it while you're in Boston is maybe it's very action heavy, and maybe that's because it's teaching the mechanics. But after replaying it, because I was always with you that the game doesn't give you enough downtime, but I think there's quite a bit of downtime in The Last of Us. And I after replaying it, I was honestly shocked at how much there was. Like when you're going around the university, there's quite a bit of downtime there. And
I think can I ask you this?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe is it that is there downtime if you want to have downtime? Whereas if you're like, I kind of was just trying to finish The Last of Us 1. So I wasn't scavenging Like, when I played The Last of Us 2, I would be in a building for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That had nothing to do with anything, just to scavenge.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe if you do just go from encounter to encounter, you have very little downtime. But when you just take your time to explore buildings, which I guess is what you're meant to do because that's how the game's built, you get all of these side conversations. You pick up all the notes and like read through those, and those are really cool. And you get this, all this time with Joel and Ellie and all these optional dialogues and stuff. And like you might, Ellie will just decide to like talk about some random thing that's in the room or whatever it might be. So there's that. But also I found that every single encounter was really, really good. And obviously The Last of Us 2 is a huge step up, and we'll talk about that. But The Last of Us 1, I really, really enjoyed all of the level design and all of the stealth segments. And every time I was into like an action moment, I always enjoyed it. I always felt like this is like so engaging and the gameplay is so good. But then they like take the way that they structured it and just push it up to the next level in the sequel. And I think all of the first game is so strong. The weakest part is probably the beginning of the game. Not right at the beginning, but like once you're sort of with Tess and then up until she dies, probably, like that is sort of like a really sort of weak part of the game. But a lot of it's set up that they sort of have to do. So, I don't think The Last of Us 1 is perfectly paced at all, but I think it's phenomenal and sort of doesn't really matter that it's got some poor issues in places. I don't really care that much.
Right.
Yeah, that was a weird side fucking note, but yeah, there you go. I don't know what we were talking about.
I guess for me, I just wasn't... I guess I do disagree with you still. Like, I stand by that I didn't think there was much downtime that I enjoyed. There wasn't enough for me, and I wasn't that big of a fan of fighting zombies either. So, like, every encounter I got to, I was like, ugh, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah, but so they're just stealth scenarios like any other game. You just...
Yeah, I don't know. I just did. I wasn't in... I think ultimately I just wasn't into the game that much. I never was into The Last of Us that much. I liked it, and the best part to me was the characters, obviously. But in terms of playing through it, I was a bit survivalist stuff. It's just never been for me.
Maybe you should replay it.
Maybe I should replay it. I'll probably appreciate it better now after the second one.
Yeah.
But, anywho, going into Last of Us Part 2, I'm like, well, I know technologically speaking, Naughty Dog are incredible and they're going to step it up, and this is going to be one of the most realistic games you'll ever play. And what Last of Us 1 does really well is tension and in gameplay, and I'm sure, and it looked like from all the demos, Last of Us Part 2 was doing the same thing. What I wasn't interested in The Last of Us Part 2 going into it, right, was the trailers. Whenever I watch a trailer, the story looked... I was like, what's this story about? So you're playing as Ellie. I'm gathering that, right? Like, Ellie will be your main focus. Probably not Joel. Okay, yeah, right. What's the story? Ellie wants to kill a bunch of people. Why? The town they're living in gets attacked by this group of people, and you're going to go kill them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not that interested in a storyline like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I just was... Every time I was like, I'm going to play it. I'm sure it's going to be really, like, amazing to play. But the story they were selling... wasn't intriguing to me at all. I was like, I don't care about going on a pointless random another adventure with Joel and Ellie. Like, what's the reason? They said they weren't going to make a second game, but a story came up and it had a real reason to make a second game because of the story they came up with. And I'm like, okay. And them just like, they lived in a nice town and it gets burnt down and it launches them on another journey. Joel and Ellie. And I'm like, I'm not sold on that. I wasn't sold.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
when I boot up the game... Oh, I should say this as well. We had a Patreon spoils, like, someone come onto our Patreon page and spoil shit. What I had spoiled for me was Abby kills Joel.
Okay.
That's what I had spoiled for me. So I knew that. But I was like, who the fuck's Abby? Like, is she someone I should know?
Right,
like, because the guy's name was Abby Gets Revenge and Kills Joel. That was the guy's Patreon name.
Fucking cunt.
Yeah. And so when Abby gets introduced at the start of the game, I'm like, fuck, here we go. Is this going to happen? And then I'm like, is this going to happen at the start? And then you have the, we'll go into the details in a sec, but the scene where Joel dies was so fucking intense.
Yeah, it really was.
So well performed. It was like watching. I've never played a game like technology is making performance so much better. I feel like we say this all these major games like a Red Dead Redemption 2 or a God of War or something. It's like the performance is so good. This is the best performances in a game.
Oh yeah.
And I've never played a game closer to looking like I'm watching live action actors acting. Where like graphically it looks like real people. And the performances are like, on par with any of the best movies you're going to watch right now. And Ellie's face screaming at Joel get up, and her crying as Abby tortures and kills Joel. Now, I was traumatized by that scene. Yeah. And it made me realize, one, I love Joel and Ellie more than I thought I did. And I obviously liked the first game more than I thought I did. Right? So that showed me that. And also, so well performed, I cried. I had to stop playing. I was like, I've played enough for today. I have to put this away. And then I went into like my garage and fucking spent an hour punching the bag. Like, it's just, I felt emotionally assaulted. And I was like, holy shit, I want to fucking kill this bitch. I want to kill all her friends. Everyone in that room is fucked. That's my headspace. Yeah. But also couldn't have been a better motivator to launch into this game. Like, I wanted a reason to go on this adventure or journey that they're selling us. And the town getting burnt down, I don't give two fucks. Joel dying, her getting revenge, I can get nothing. I don't even know how to use words. I was so interested in the game moving forward. I just wanted to play now because I cared. They made me care. Straight away, I'm in straight away. And then what they did, spending the first half of the game making you feel one way and letting you live out that fantasy of how you want to feel about a situation they launched the game with. Also making it connect so perfectly to the first game where it feels like it's a proper like part 2. It really like everything in the first game is so important to this. And then they spend the second half of the game completely trying to, again, of course this is trying to, you and I, they did it, but trying to turn you 180 and not allowing you to feel how you want to feel about the situation. Yeah. And then you come to this ending and a lot of things change, or maybe it doesn't, and that's why the divisiveness comes from, if they don't convert you in the second half, you're not going to enjoy the game, you're not going to like the game. And if they do convert you, then you're going to love it, as you and I did. Now the thing is, I ask, why didn't it work on some people? And I ask you, James, is it simply because some people are different and like things and can empathize differently with scenarios than others? Or is it because, do you think expectations were too high?
I think...
Or different?
I think it's a combination of things. Because obviously both of us went into this without, huge amounts of expectations. And so there's not that, having 7 years of thinking up this sequel in your head and things you'd love to see and where they could take, a sequel or whatever. But also I do, and people are there's going to be so many people that get mad about, our reasoning for this because they want to just blame bad writing, which just is simply not the case. The writing is
so tremendous. What amazing writing.
I think that some people just... I just think some people work differently. Some people think about things differently. Empathy is different for them. The way they consume media is different. I don't know. I think that when a game sets up a scenario for you and the way that it sets up its world, and when you're in that, the way that you feel about it is different. So, I don't see the violence in The Last of Us Part 2 the same way I would see the violence in Assassin's Creed, for example. It's very different. It's, in an Assassin's Creed, in a Halo, in Call of Duty, it's glorified, it's romanticized, it's fun. In The Last of Us Part 2, they don't do that necessarily. It's visceral and it's satisfying when you take out a camp of guys or whatever. But when they get these up close and personal moments, there's no satisfaction and joy in the violence that they present in particular moments where you've got... Ellie one-on-one with someone and she has to overcome and murder that person. You can see the expressions on both of their faces, both of them trying to fight to survive. When you've got Ellie, torturing Nora to get the information out of her, and that really fucks her up afterwards. A lot of people, said, because I think I got two emotions in that moment. The one moment was initially like, fuck yeah, I'm getting revenge on this dumb bitch. But then as the scene progresses, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Ellie, like, what the fuck are you doing? This is fucked. And I think that it all depends on the way you receive what the game is giving you. And some people maybe, like, I'm not saying this is wrong, it's just this is the way some people, you know, respond to the game, is they couldn't get over the fact that Abby killed Joel. And no matter, like, it is to a fault at some points, because people then begin to blame the writing, whereas it's just their own bias for Joel. Which at a point does show that they care deeply about these characters, which is a good thing, but...
Yeah, exactly. Joel... like, I love Joel. He was my favorite character in the first game. I fucking loved Joel. He's probably still my favorite character in the two games.
Mm-hmm.
But what was he going to do in this game? What was his purpose anymore?
Yeah, I mean, his arc was
the only arc or purpose Joel could serve would be very happy. That's the only thing you could really do for him. Would be have the Ellie forgiveness and them reconnecting, and then in the end, it's like a father-daughter relationship, and they're closer than ever. It's like, what? In what universe was The Last of Us that sort of game franchise?
Yeah.
The Last of Us isn't happiness. The Last of Us is raw, it's real, and it's about real, true human spirit and human emotion. And it's about revenge, it's about redemption, it's about family, it's about all those things, but it's not in the good ways.
It's not about love and happiness and all of those things.
Like the only thing you could do with Joel if you keep him alive is some lovey-dovey happiness thing. Like,
yeah.
Him dying was exactly what should have happened at the start of the game. What a great motivator to push the game forward and make a player want to play. And it's fine that you can't turn away from Abby killing Joel. I'm fine with that. It's not going to work on everyone. It's a big risk, and I love that they took the risk, and I love that it is divisive. But if you're mad that just at the fact that Joel died at all, I don't know what to tell you, man, because... It was a brilliant decision.
Yeah,
and exactly I think there's
one of the main criticisms that people are bringing up that I can't disagree with more is the argument that I couldn't sympathise with Abby because Abby is pure evil, whereas I can sympathise with Ellie because Ellie is a good person. And
I don't understand what that means. How is she pure evil?
Well, this is what I mean. I've seen a lot of people say it, and Amir keeps saying it over and over again, and Abby is not evil. Like, at no point do they show Abby is evil. The only time they do, and they present it to you that way, is through Ellie's eyes, which is obviously the fucking point. And once we get to know her, once we get to see her, she's a good person. She's not evil. And a lot of people keep bringing up that, oh, she gets joy out of killing. She really wanted to kill Dina, even knowing that she was pregnant, which I just don't understand. People can't see the nuance.
Which is why, because Ellie had just killed her friend who was
exactly,
pregnant,
and
that's why she was. That's literally why she was doing
thought the same way she thought Joel has just murdered my father in cold blood. His daughter has murdered all of my friends and a pregnant woman in cold blood because she's a fucking maniac. That's obviously what Abby thinks, because that's the same thing that Ellie thinks about her and her friends. And so they're both just as justified as each other. You can't hold them on different fucking, like, hold them to different standards just because you like Ellie more, because you know Ellie. Abby is not... You can't just claim that Abby's evil.
You can if you want, but you're wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can, but it's not true. Abby is shown to be a good person. She doesn't... Like, I said this in my analysis breakdown thingy, that obviously in that moment, Abby is not, like, love it. She doesn't love killing pregnant women. That's not a thing. That's not a trait of her. She just really wanted to get back at Ellie in that moment. She was fueled with pure rage and revenge. That's all she wanted. And obviously, when Lev is like, don't fucking do that, she's like, okay, yeah, you're right, I can't do that. And she calms down and doesn't do it. And then she spares Ellie for a second fucking time, when she could easily have just killed her right there. And we see time and time again, and people have been saying as well, another big criticism is that none of it's real writing. It's all just manipulation. They're just manipulating the player. They're tricking you into thinking Abby's good. And it honestly, it's fucking delusional.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't know.
Tricking
They're like, oh, they make her help these two people, and they also have her play with dogs, and so they make you think she's good when she's evil. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean? I
doesn't
don't
mean
know.
anything.
And it's a huge one I've seen. People keep saying that to me all the time. And I'm like, so what you mean is they wrote her to be a good person and you just can't believe it. That's what it is. It's not that they're tricking you. She just is written as a good person.
Abby's not
the
the villain.
Want to believe it
at all. At all.
Yeah, there is no villain in The Last of Us, and that's sort of the point of it.
It's all a point of view.
Yeah, and that was what the first game did.
Joel is evil from Abby and all her friends' point of view.
Mm-hmm.
He's the reason there's no cure. What Joel did was fucking wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have done it. Like Joel said, at the end of the game, if I go back, I'd do it all again. And as a player, so would I. Mm-hmm. Because you play from Joel's point of view. And of course you want to save Ellie. I'd want to do it again 100 times. I'm glad he did it. But what he did was stop a cure from happening and keeping the whole world in apocalyptic chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Murdered a whole base of fireflies.
And then murdered a whole base
of... murdered a doctor. He did not. Everyone keeps saying like, oh, but the guy pulled the knife on him. Like, okay, he was holding a little fucking scalpel, obviously, because a fucking rampaging man just burst into your fucking surgery room. Of course, you're gonna want to defend yourself because you have no idea what this guy is gonna do. Joel didn't have to kill him. He could have taken the knife off of him, knocked him out, and took Ellie. But he wanted to kill this fucking doctor because he wanted to. Like he was.
Well, he wanted to protect Ellie, and he knew they'd all come after her. So he was willing to protect Ellie to kill all of these people.
Yeah,
and I get that from his point of view. But you've also got to understand from everyone else that's not him and Ellie in the world, they would hate him. That's why it's a secret. That's why they don't go tell Jackson. I know you're all friends with Ellie, so you'll be fine with the fact that she's immune. No, everyone would want Ellie to sacrifice herself, including Ellie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so I understand why they killed Joel, but at the same time, I'm like, that's cool and all, but hey, I'm going to go and kill all of you as Ellie. That's what I'm going to do, and that's my motivation, 100%. And I stand by wanting to, as the player in the game, that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you continue on, and then when you're playing as Abby, and the thing that it's not. I think the big thing people are saying to me is that, like, that I've heard people saying, one, like you said, they're evil, she's evil, and they're trying to trick you, and she was only helping. Someone said, I think Amir.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one I've really talked to with that other perspective.
Let's just bash Amir about it.
Fucking weirdo, fucking idiot. That Abby only helped Lev and stuff because of Owen, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's
like,
not true. That's what Mel says, but that doesn't make it true.
True, no, that's not true at all. Like, that's the whole point. She went and helped them because she feels guilt, and it was Owen that made her realize that. They had that argument, and pretty much like, and he brought up the fact that, you know, what she did was fucked up to kill Joel, and how she did it was fucked up. He woke her up to that.
Yeah.
And she's been holding on to that guilt of what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And she's guilt, and that's what she says to Lev. Why are you helping me? Guilt?
Yeah.
Her helping them is her redemption arc. Her whole arc is about redemption.
Yeah, exactly. And
Ellie's is revenge. Abby's is redemption.
Mm-hmm. And they show that through the short dream sequences you get where when she leaves Lev and Yara in that little trailer, she has that dream that night where she's going through the Firefly base in St. Mary's Hospital, and she opens the door, and instead of finding her dad dead, she finds Lev and Yara hanging from trees and stuff in the forest, and that wakes her up, and she's like, shit, I've got to go save him. And it's out of guilt, and it's because she knows it's the right thing to do, and it's also because killing Joel didn't make her feel better in the end. She thought it would, but it didn't. Getting revenge didn't make her feel any better. Whereas, in order to come to terms with what happened to her dad and move on, you see that after she helps Lev and Yara, and after she does all those things for them and gets the medical supplies and all of that, she has that dream again, but she opens the door and her dad is there, everything's fine, and he's smiling at her. And that's to show that by being a good person, doing the right thing, is actually what made her be able to move on and be a better person and improve. Whereas killing Joel didn't do that, and she does feel constant guilt for that and believes to herself that she's a bad person because she did that, and she's trying to improve and be better. Her arc is Joel's arc. It's the same thing. And they try and draw those parallels all the time, even through gameplay. You do all of the plank, ladder, and puzzles and things like that as Abby. You can also craft shivs as Abby, all of those things. It's very much Joel's arc, overcoming and redemption, and that's sort of the point of that, to be able to show that parallel there. And it's done incredibly well, and it all makes so much sense. It's so strange.
There's only one mistake I want to bring up here.
Okay.
And I stand by that this was a mistake, because no one's gonna like Abby more than Ellie. I think that's pretty fair to say, 99%, right? Like, I loved Abby by the end, but compared to Ellie, I don't give a fuck. I love Ellie 10 times more. Yeah. I care about Ellie 10 times more.
See, I don't know by the end of this game how I felt. Every time I think about
I know this, and the thing I hated the most about the end, the one scene I didn't like was when I had to fight Ellie as Abby. Yes. I didn't enjoy that, and I honestly think that was a mistake to do it that way.
I think the reason...
Because every time Ellie killed me, I was like, good, I'm fine with that. Can we just wrap this up? I don't want to hurt Ellie at all. I don't want to touch her. I didn't want to press any buttons. I wanted to turn the PlayStation off and leave. And I was already sold on Abby. I was fine to play as Abby, but I was like, I'm not fucking killing Ellie. I didn't know it was about to happen. Yeah. I had no idea. And I was like, I'm not fucking killing her. Let Ellie fucking stab this bitch. Like, that's where I was at. That I didn't agree with that.
Yeah,
I didn't agree with that.
I think the more... Because I haven't played it through twice, but Elva played it through. So I sort of have played it through twice. Like, I've sat and watched it, and obviously I played it through myself. So I sort of have got that second experience of it to sort of reanalyze how I feel. And I think I don't think you're meant to enjoy it. I don't think when you're playing, like, and you're fighting Ellie, you're meant to be like, oh, this is cool. You're meant to be like, oh god, this is really fucking horrible and I don't like it. Obviously, I think it's meant to elicit that response from the player. I think it works, and I don't think I would change it. And I think the reason is because you have to see that scene as Abby in order to not just be like, fuck this bitch, I want her fucking dead. It has to be from Abby's perspective. And you could, I guess maybe you could have done that in a cutscene.
That she left her alive? Is that what you're saying?
I think that as well, but also if you are playing as Ellie in that perspective and you're fighting Abby, and
she's still the villain?
Yeah, I think you would see her immediately again as a villain, because she'd be, she bashes Dina's head against the floor and she goes to cut her throat, and you're seeing that from Ellie's perspective. And I think that maybe you could have done it in an impartial cutscene where you have the scene play out, but then I think you need that. You've been playing as Abby this whole time, and you need to play as Abby, and then so when she spares her, you sort of see that because you're from that perspective, and then you switch back to Ellie. And I also think they're trying to draw parallels between the Ellie and David fight as well, because it's very similar in that regard. And I think it's just to show that Ellie is pretty fucking terrifying to anyone that's not Ellie. And I quite like that as well, because you get to see the way that, when you're just when you're Ellie's enemy, what she's fucking like, and she's, scary. And so I do think that works. Although, obviously, when I played it the first time, I was like, oh god, this is fucking horrible. And I didn't want to press any buttons. I was just like, just don't do anything. I didn't want to have to go, because I didn't know if I was going to end up killing her. I was like, I don't want to.
You've convinced me of why that should be a thing, but almost maybe a cutscene would have sufficed. Potentially.
Maybe don't drag it out for as long. I don't know. But I think that's just because I didn't want to have to try and kill Ellie. But I didn't like it.
I didn't enjoy that. I just didn't enjoy that part.
But I don't think you're meant to.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that, and I knew going into this podcast, when I brought this whole thing up, you were going to be like, I don't think you're meant to. I'm like, I get that, and I appreciate it, but also, I still don't want to do it.
Yeah, but I think that's a lot of people's mentalities for just the whole game.
Yeah,
it's
right.
like I get that you're meant to like Abby, and I get that she's meant to not be.
I just found it hard to not like her. I just found it hard not to like her with how well they wrote her, and they wrote her friends and the situations they put you in. And my reaction to playing as Abby was, day one shows up, I'm like, oh, get fucked.
Yeah.
It goes Seattle day one. I literally go out loud verbally. I don't think I've ever talked out loud in any game until this game. Like when Joel dies, I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. And then another point is like I was like getting scared, and we'll talk about this because I think the most flawless 3 hours of gameplay of any game I've ever played was day 2 Ellie in Seattle. I think that was one of the most perfect things I've ever played. In so many in everywhere, but we'll get into that. Because I was like terrified of zombies for the first time in my life, and I was like, it was awesome. And I was like screaming and shit. But I don't. What point were we making? I think I've lost track of myself.
You're talking about day one Abby.
Day 1 Abby, and I'm like, oh, get fucked.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. Fuck off. I'm not playing this fucking Abby for
so
3
pissed.
days. I'm like, get fucked. And then, like, day 1, I was like, hey, look, the gameplay's so fun to me. In The Last of Us, I'm like, so I enjoyed playing as her in day 1. And you sort of start getting to know, I'm like, oh, no, don't make me like her. I hate that. Because I knew they were going to do it. I knew as in, like, I would like her by the end. I just knew that would happen. So I'm like, no, don't make me like, fuck off.
I just want to kill her. I want it to be simple. I don't want to have my feelings conflicted. It's too difficult for me to deal with.
Yeah, exactly that. Literally exactly that. Yeah, so day 1, I was like, okay, that's fine. You have your flashbacks in there. Oh, that's an interesting story. And I enjoyed the perspective change of like really understanding why she wanted to kill Joel. So I enjoyed that side of things, like those flashback stuff and all that. But then we get to day 2, and day 2 is day 2 of Abby was also my favorite, probably day of her as well. Oh, actually, no, day 3 of Abby's fucking amazing.
I really like both day 2 and 3. Actually, I really like day 1 as her. Actually, do you know what? I just like the whole game. I think that's what it is, actually.
Yeah, I do like... Hey, look, overall, I like the whole game. I prefer the Ellie segments. Especially Ellie day 2 was so...
I actually kind of prefer the Abby section.
What is wrong with you? You're fucking weird.
At least just from a gameplay perspective.
Maybe from a game... There was like the sky bridges were awesome.
They're way more unique. And also way more in the vein of The Last of Us. I love just having Abby and Lev together and them just having fun sometimes. And just like throwing, stuff back and forth and having Lev learn not just about, because Lev already knows the world that they live in because, he's used to it, but learning about stuff that's outside of his own tribe and everything is so interesting. I love that. It's like a twist on Ellie's discovery of the world, and I really like that. The set pieces were really cool. Like you've got obviously the stuff in the sky. You've got the whole bit where the Seraphites take Abby, and like you've got that whole cutscene where they fuck up Yara's arm and Abby's hanging and everything, and it's so like visceral and raw and real. And obviously then the whole the burning island set piece horse thing and all of the stuff that followed was so fucking incredible. I love all of that. But also I do love everything as Ellie as well. Like the open world section at the beginning is so interesting, and there's so much downtime there just talking with Dina and everything.
That's what I mean by downtime though as well. Like that's downtime to me. Last of Us Part 1 didn't have fucking shit on The Last of Us Part 2's downtime, and
no.
But it's also technologically they can do more with the downtime, right? Like you can really like they just have the technology where they can create these different gameplay mechanics, like a whole guitar can be played. Like that's so insane that there's a game that does that.
That was so fucking cool. The first time that comes up and you're like, oh, this is fucking great.
I'm like, there's no way that whole guitar on there. And then I'm like, on YouTube now, there's like covers of songs coming out. Speaking of, if you haven't checked out the cover I filmed on David's channel from The Last of Us Part 2 of Future Days, go check that out. It's fucking amazing. It's on like 5,000 views.
Really?
So, yeah. It's big.
See, gaming.
Gaming.
That's where it's at. You get to turn it into a gaming covers channel and you can get stuck. Shit. Can't do anything else.
Nah, it's fine. It's just a nicely well filmed thing and relevant, and that's
true.
And music's universal, so that's good. But look, to me, The Last of Us Part 2, gameplay wise, it was everything I wanted. After the like every criticism I had the first game, this game fixed in terms of the way the pacing went. To me was great. Obviously, it's jarring to go from day 3, this big moment, then you go all the way back to day 1. But I didn't find it that jarring. Like maybe I get why other people did, but I wasn't that fussed.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing of the gameplay on the days was amazing. The downtime, enough time for character development, but also like I should be able to play the game, and the game makes me think. It gives you puzzles, it gives you things. I shouldn't have to be fighting a zombie or a human enemy all the time? Why do I have to be in conflict? Let me spend like an hour not even seeing an enemy, and it's just about like trying to get to a location, and we're trying to figure out how, and it makes you think. And it's a game that is so raw, so real, and so real to life that when you're trying to figure out a problem in the game, you have to think of real world solutions. And then you're like, this is what I do in real life. I wonder if that's in the game. They're like, oh, right, they did that in the game. You can actually just do real shit in the game. It's like real life.
Yeah,
I was trying to find a safe code, and then there was a note on a wall, and it's like, the safe is Stacey's phone number. But the number was cut off on the note, and I'm like, oh shit, it's fucking cut off, so I only have half the number. And then I'm like, but we're in an office, and I'm like, where do people write numbers down in an office? Maybe in the bathroom, on the bathroom wall. So I go in the bathroom, and on the wall is Stacey's numbers written on this wall of graffiti. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Stacey's number's on there, cool. And then I had the whole number. Real world thinking works in the game to solve your problems.
Right at the beginning when you've got to power open the gate to get into Seattle, and you've got like the wire, and you're like, it doesn't fit around this corner, how am I going to figure out this puzzle? And literally you just throw it over the gate, and then you can plug it into the thing and stretch it over, and it's like, that makes sense. Like, it's not like a complex video game puzzle, it's just like, but it is complex because you don't think of it, because you're playing the game and you're just like, how do I fucking do this puzzle? Like, how am I going to get this wire through? And you just
but by 5-6 hours in, you're in the zone. So you're like, I felt like I was solving every puzzle instantly, because I accepted the fact that I'm like, well, it'll be whatever you would do in real life, this game will allow you to do.
Yeah,
and then I just
it's
sort
really
of did
cool
that.
in that regard. I like that a lot. I think that's one thing the first game lacked, is it felt like a video game. And a lot of the puzzles and a lot of the level design was very video game, whereas everything in The Last of Us Part 2, I think, feels like a real world space that works as a level. I think that's really masterful. I don't know really how they've managed it. But I never looked at anything, maybe once or twice, but I can't remember off the top of my head if it did happen. But you never look at anything and go, oh, that you can see that this is like a level. It looks like a real building or like a real open world area. Like, it doesn't feel, handcrafted to be a video game level. And I think that's really well done. And that must have taken them a long time to achieve, because you can't just build a space and then have it work. It has to function as both. And yeah, I think that's really well done, and it translates across the whole game, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, agreed. I think there's so many examples we can point out about how that real world aspect of things fits into this game. We could go on about it all day. I could brag about how flawless this game is gameplay and mechanically was all day. I didn't have one single fucking glitch, texture pop out, or anything the entire time. It was just so smooth. Same. It was just so smooth. And the combat was fun, way more fun than the first Last of Us. Being stealthy, the skill trees were good and interesting, and I was able to use, and especially when I wanted to focus on stealth and not getting caught as Ellie. But then when I was Abby, I just wanted to fucking tank everything and fuck everyone up. I was able to play differently with each character, and have that open world section of day one I loved. Getting to know Dina a bit was really good. Then having those flashbacks were used so fucking good in this game. For Abby and also for Ellie, and important for Ellie because it gave you those Joel and Ellie moments you're looking for in the game. It gave you that whole story. Joel's so important to this game just because he dies early on. He's so important.
Yeah, he is, definitely.
But some of my favorite bits, like getting to fight with Joel, zombies with Joel in that hotel, like getting to go through that museum with Joel, like you get those moments. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was great, and I think that's Joel is very important to this game. He's one of the main characters of this game, despite dying so early on. He's a driving force for everything that happens. He's the reason Abby redeems herself and tries to find redemption, and she's also the reason that in the end Ellie's able to, well, at least tries to move forward. And a lot of the things that happen in this game is all based on Joel and his existence in this world despite dying so early on. And I really like that even after he's gone, the relationship between Joel and Ellie is, a huge part of all of the things that happen in the game. And I think that's really, really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to get in a bit more specifics here. What are some of your favorite stand-up moments in the Ellie section of the game and the Ellie side of the story? Like, we've obviously talked about what we think of the controversy and the divisiveness, and we're obviously on the side of we loved the game and love it overall. But let's get into sort of Ellie's side of the story, and focus on that. Focus on that a bit, especially the start. I really enjoyed the start and just playing it early on and how real this game felt. Like, how'd you feel when you first kind of into the game and gameplay and really seeing how well made this world is?
Yeah, it was the first, like, when you've got like obviously the intro with Joel and everything, and it introduces you to story and character and everything in this world and how it plays, and I think that was an incredible introduction for a start, because you've got like this horse ride and you go through, you know, the surrounding countryside around Jackson and everything, and you've got like the sunset and all this shit, and it looks fucking incredible, and it just plays so well, and it just introduces you to the tone of this game, and I think it's like composed so well, the whole thing just put together, from music to, you know, the visuals and the way that it plays and the level design and all that stuff is so great. But you've got, the first thing I think you notice is all of that stuff and the way that the game is so perfectly polished, and I think polish is such a rare thing these days. Even with some of the best games, they don't quite have the same polish that something like a Naughty Dog game has, where you don't get glitches, you don't get, you know, pop-ins or textures not loading or whatever. Like, it's everything just sort of works, and that, I think that increases a lot of the, you know, your immersion in the game and the quality and the good time that you have playing it. But you get, I liked the tone a lot of Ellie's sections. I think that you've obviously got that start bit where you've got you're in Jackson and everything, and I really liked that stuff. I really liked you know, getting to know the town and getting to see everything and the little details here and there. You got the snowball fight, which is really cool, and immediately it establishes downtime as well as being core to the game. And
how they built those random mechanics, like that snowball thing doesn't come into the game again. It's just built for that,
and it's really cool.
Only Naughty Dog do that shit.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really cool, and I like that a lot of the game it's like, right, the central focus of this game is what is meant to be the central focus of The Last of Us, which is character, you know, their motivations, their, you know, emotion, humanity, all of these things. That's central to the game, and so we're not going to constantly throw, you know, enemies at you and throw action scenarios at you unless they're meaningful and we have to. The core of this game is all of this other stuff, and, you know, you don't get those action moments until a little bit later in, where, you know, you're on patrol and everything. But I think that Ellie's sections are split up really well, and I like the tone of everything, the way that you go from day one as Ellie, which is a lot, very sort of relaxed and laid back for the most part. There's some intense moments in there, obviously, after you get past the gate and it takes you from the open world to this more sort of tense thing where you know, you see Tommy using the tactic that Joel used in the first game to interrogate those two guys, and all of that stuff, and, you know, the horse fucking dying and all that shit, and it gets fucking tense. But there's a lot of downtime, and it's a lot more relaxed, and it's a lot more just sort of what you'd expect from The Last of Us, just with Ellie and Dina, and I really like that. But like you said, day 2 as Ellie was one of the, just from start to finish, one of the best sequences that the game had, and making your way like from I forget where day 2 starts. It's before you meet Jesse, right?
So there's 2 sections. There's the like a Jesse section, and then you go to the hospital section.
Yeah. So I think the best part was making your way to the hospital. That whole section
100%. That whole section was
insanely good.
So good.
Just
man.
Getting introduced to the Seraphites for the first time and the way that they work, and the AI.
I fucking literally screamed, "Jesus Christ!"
when the arrow comes out and hits you.
And you hear the whistle.
Oh man, it's insane, and their whistles is like you're crouching through this long grass and you can hear all these people whistling to one another, and it's so tense. They build tension so well, whether it's with those whistles or with the sound effects or with like just this music, just this, sort of building music in the background. And every single encounter with them was fucking terrifying because they're so clever, and you feel genuinely like out of your depth when you go into these scenarios, and I love that about it because Naughty Dog's never had incredible AI. But in this game, it's like, I don't know what the fuck happened, but the AI is just insanely real. And like when enemies are patrolling, it's not like, a normal stealth game where enemies will just patrol in this particular pattern or whatever. When they're walking, they'll turn around or whatever. Like they'll look around them just to sort of, I don't know, just like you normally would if you were walking and patrolling an area. And so you can't just simply walk up behind a guy until you're close enough and take him out because he might turn around and see you because he's just sort of looking all around. They'll call out to each other. Every character had a name, so when someone died, that someone would call out their name or something. Or if they were talking to each other across a long distance, if the person didn't reply, one of the other AI would be like, "The fuck happened?" and then go over to find out. All of the dogs had names and stuff. It's just a super intense segment, and I think Ellie's sections go from typical The Last of Us being a lot more calm to being incredibly intense by the end point. And a lot of Ellie's segments are very bleak and very dark, and just when you get those moments of levity, they're really important, and you get to see the humanity of these characters. Like when you get these flashbacks, getting to see into Ellie's life and the way Ellie and Joel's relationship went, or when you're in the music shop and you pick up the guitar and you get that whole scene, and there's just these moments between what is just like despair and darkness that is just like hope and humanity and joy in these really dark times when you're on this revenge mission. And I think that's so important, and they break it up so well. And when you're feeling just sort of like hopeless and everything's just falling apart, you get these moments between these characters that you love that sort of bring it all back and give you this reassurance. And I think that's really good. And I think Ellie's segments really do convey this really dark tone with all of this like Last of Us stuff layered in, and I think that's done incredibly well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I one of my favorite parts of the whole, probably even the whole game, was the first. There's a breakthrough moment for me where in day 2 with Ellie, I was scared of a zombie for the first time. Like I had played a zombie game or was watching a zombie thing, and I actually was like terrified. And it was when the stalkers get introduced. Day 2 on the way to the hospital. Yeah. And I was like, this is fucking terrifying. And I think it was just the perfect timing of it, is that whole sequence, the whole section had been so good. I was just enjoying so much of the downtime that I made for myself and going into these buildings. And like even one of them, like I didn't have to go into this building. I went into one. It was like an old office space or like housing space. Mm-hmm. And there were all these like different locked doors to go around and find your way, alternative routes in, and there were stories going on in there. But then randomly I went to there was a weapon upgrade table, and I went to that table, and then you just get fucking attacked randomly by these people while you're using it, and it's just a side thing. But there's this whole story there, and if you read the letters around the place, you'll know like what's going on with them and why they are there, and they're not wanting, like they were like prisoners and shit.
Yeah.
It's and really that's why they attacked you. So I like that side of it, and I just thoroughly I don't know, enjoyed all those sides of the game. And then maybe it's because it was just such a great sequence overall. When we get to that stalker bit, I was so like enthralled in the sequence that I was just like, holy crap, this is terrifying. The tension was crazy. There's no music. It's just me in this dark room, and these things are coming at you. It's not like usually I'm just going to stealth around them. Now I'm like, they're aware. They know I'm there, and they're waiting for me.
Yeah. That's what's so terrifying about stalkers, because you think like, oh, I'm just going to sneak around them, but little do you know, like they're stalking you, and they'll just like get you at some point. And they're fucking terrifying. And that's crazy, especially when they introduce them as well. When you go into a room and you're looting it, and then you turn around to go out and you just see one dart past the door, and you're like, oh shit, there's something fucking here. And you follow that trail of blood and everything. Yeah, it's great. That is a really great section.
Yeah, I think that was a breakthrough moment for me. I've never appreciated zombies before. And that was just like, wow.
Yeah, stalkers are pretty fucking terrifying.
That got me. That got me. But yeah, it was definitely the Ellie stuff was incredible, and those flashbacks were such a great addition, and just that whole development with, you know, it really is, Joel is that sort of central figure that everyone's being paralleled off. You know, so
yeah.
No,
and it's great to know as well that, you know, this is a sequel in every sense of the way, in every sense of the word, because you've got, not only is it a character sequel in terms of the characters moving forward and having another story, you know, based off of where they were after the first game, but also the consequences of Joel's actions come back, and that's central to this game as well, and that's very important. I think it's crazy. It makes the first game more important. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's crazy that a lot of people expected that Joel would just get away with murdering an entire base of people, and nobody would ever come back to try and kill him or to confront him ever. It's like, you can't just get away with that. This isn't a fucking Hollywood movie where Joel's the action hero and he just killed all the bad guys. That's not what The Last of Us is or ever has been. And so it makes perfect sense that there was consequences to his actions, and that's the story that they're telling. And just the way they go about it is insane. And the game shifts so much over the course of the game. Like, the beginning does not feel anything like the end, and it really takes you on this fucking journey of
because I'm just thinking back to the start now with you talking about it. And I was like, holy crap, what a different game that was.
So weird. Like, when you're in Jackson and, like, you have the snowball fight, or when you go out on patrol with Dina, like, that is totally different from when you're in fucking Santa Barbara tracking down Abby, or having that fight at the very end and everything. It's crazy how different the game feels from one side to the other. And I think it's incredible the way they do that shift. And it really does feel like this whole journey, and not just like a journey physically, but like emotionally, because you feel so different. And I think that might make this game quite difficult to replay, because you're never going to have those same emotions playing the game again. You always know what to expect, and maybe that's a negative of it. Because when you replay The Last of Us Part 1, you can always enjoy that growing of relationship between Joel and Ellie, seeing them apart and then watching them grow together to the point where Joel fucks it all up to save Ellie and, you know, breaks their relationship down. You can always enjoy that story, but I think playing this game again, a lot of it is based on not knowing events. And I mean, I might be wrong, I might replay it and it might be really great. But I think that knowing that I already like Abby is going to be weird to replay the game again, because you're never going to have those emotions again of, oh, fuck this bitch, I want to fucking kill her, and then you slowly come to like her. You're never going to have that again. So this might be a game that has very little replay value in story-wise, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's it's funny, I just got a message from David, who, for those who don't know, again, he did the Future Days cover. Go check it out. It's an amazing video. He just finished The Last of Us. And he was telling me last night when I saw him, he's like, I don't like Abby. I'm not into it. And he was right at the end. Like, he's at the farm. And I'm like, really? And we're talking about it. I'm like, dude, nah, I disagree. But then he just told me, he's like, no, I came around at the end, seeing Abby on the pillar.
Yeah. I think that's another thing, right? Is for a lot of people as well, they think they don't like Abby until that final moment. Because I came to really like her, and I was like, oh, I'm really into her, and I like her with Lev and everything, and I think it's really fun. And then they switch you back to Ellie again, and they remind you why Ellie wants to kill her, and they show, like, you know, Ellie has that PTSD of seeing Joel die again. You get her journal out, and then you get that flashback scene again to when the night when Ellie and Dina kissed, and then that fucking cunt is like, fuck you guys for kissing or whatever. And then Joel comes over to defend her, and you get that scene again, and you just feel so bad that you think that was their final moment. That's the last time she saw him, and I think that's what she keeps remembering, is that moment, and that's another driving thing for Ellie, is she needs to avenge Joel because she acted that way with him, and so she needs to get that revenge to, you know, have peace or whatever. And so immediately you're back and you want to take Abby out, but as soon as I saw her on that post and Ellie cuts her down and then she cuts Lev down, I was like, oh, I don't like this. You can't kill her. I can't have this. It's just
this is where my head was at, right? This is where my head changed. So we play through this story, man, and this is how I feel about the game. The first half of this game is a revenge story. And you see how deep and dark this is taking Ellie. And you know we're going dark, but all the same, I'm like, I'm all with you, Ellie. I'm all fucking with you. Let's fucking torture these motherfuckers like they did to Joel. Fuck these people. And what she did to... What's the girl at the hospital
Nora.
that you torture?
Nora.
What you did to her, and then how... I was cool with what Ellie was doing, but then you saw how much it fucking traumatized her to do what she did to make her talk, and that she was willing to go to that dark place. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well for Ellie. I just knew. I'm like, this can't end well for her. This is going to take her to a deep, 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 dark place. Then you have Abby's perspective, where it's sitting there converting you, not to the fact that it justifies Joel's death, it doesn't at all. You're still mad about Joel's death, and you always will be. But it convinced you the fact that you can forgive her, which is the whole point of what Ellie's trying to do with Joel. You forgive Abby because she's redeeming, or yeah, of course some people don't, but because she's redeeming herself. She feels guilt. She's lost. Like, she was a Firefly. The event that Joel killed her father wasn't just Joel killing her father and taking away a cure for the world. She's also lost the Fireflies. That whole event took away the Fireflies. That was her home. That was all she had. She became displaced, and she's a wolf now, and she's an upper ranked wolf, but she's not really that in her heart. That's why she walked away, and how excited she was at the end to get in contact with Fireflies. Like, how that joy on her face and relief and excitement to be like, oh my God, there are Fireflies out there. Now, her redemption arc of being the Joel of the game, of finding this young displaced person and helping them, and one line says to Lev, she's like, those are your people, and she goes, you're my people now. I'm like, fuck. Wow, yeah, that's right.
That's a great scene.
Like, that's what, like, she's not the enemy, she's not a bad guy. And that's what, and David's just said that to me. He goes, when I saw her up on the pillar, I came around, he goes, in retrospect, I respect her. You know, she's not the bad guy. I'm like, that's it. She's not the bad guy.
No.
And
she just wanted revenge for her dad.
And it spent what a masterful thing to do, to make you feel 100% committed to one emotion so much that I've never really felt in a game before, and then spend the second half of the game and successfully converting me to think the opposite of that is so incredible, to the point where the way I saw the ending, and I got excited about the ending when it was coming up, right? So, you know, when you realize that Ellie's going to go after Abby, I'm like, look, it's got to happen. It's just got to happen, right? Like, what this game has taught us is there's consequences to all our actions. You know, Joel didn't get away with killing those Fireflies and saving Ellie. He died. Abby, yes, she redeemed herself, so I forgive her, but she did kill Joel. She's got to die. That's where my head was at. And I like Abby, but look, I get where we're going with this. Ellie's got to go after her and kill her.
Yeah.
Then I got excited, right? So it flashes back a couple of months. You're playing as Abby, and you find the Fireflies, and I'm like, oh man, I really fucking love this. I could play a whole game with Abby and Lev.
I love that moment in Santa Barbara when they find the Fireflies. I also love the parallel between Ellie and Joel, how Abby and Lev are these two, like an adult and a kid that have come together, that have traveled across the country to find the Fireflies, the same as Joel and Ellie did. Just that parallel there again. Yeah, I think it's really nice. Exactly.
And Abby's just trying to find a home for them. And then, you know, she gets captured. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, Ellie's going to save Abby. It's not going to be Ellie kills Abby. Because I'm like, Ellie's not going to go... Because I knew. Ellie is not going to find an imprisoned Abby that's probably been tortured and then kill her. She's not going to do that. I just, in my head, I'm like, she's not. She's going to actually save her. Because there's worse people out there, like these fucking psycho bikers or whatever the fuck they were.
Yeah, the Rattlers.
The Rattlers, fucking psychopaths. And also, I hate California. I hate I hate California. I'm glad it was only the ending, because I'm like, oh fuck, what a disgusting, shitty place California is. I've been there. I didn't like it there, and I don't like it playing in the. I was like, ugh, what a gross, shitty place. The houses are shit.
It. I like the change of scenery. It was nice.
I like the change of scenery, but it just reminded me like
of being there.
It's just so dry and soulless. California's so dry and soulless. Yeah. Like, it's a perfect place for a zombie apocalypse and weird psycho cunts like the Rattlers. Fucking California, soulless and dry. And you get to that end point with her on the pillar and you cut it down. I'm like, this is what... Yes, like, I get that. Like, Ellie's got to see the human side of Abby and realize that and be able to forgive her. But then when she flashes, has that thought of Joel, and she's like, no, we're going to fight. I'm like... I at that point was like, I was conflicted. It's like, look, Ellie cannot die to me. I will hate this game if Ellie died. I don't want Ellie to die. That can't be the point of this game. If she died in another, I don't know.
I knew she wasn't going to die in that
I
point.
didn't know that for sure. I just sat there like, look, if we're going to fight Abby because that's what Ellie wants, I have to kill Abby.
Yeah.
I have to kill Abby. I'm not going to allow Ellie to die. In my head as the player, I'm like, I cannot let Ellie die. I will beat the fuck out of Abby right now if I have to. I don't want to fight Abby. I want to let her go. I forgive her. As the player, I'd forgiven her. I'm totally forgiven her. I actually love her character. I love Lev. I want to let her go, and I want Ellie to move on so she can be okay with the family she was building herself. But she chased that revenge. She couldn't let it go, and she had that fight, and it broke her. That fight broke her. She lost her fingers. She almost killed Abby, and literally, dude, when you're pressing square and you're choking Abby out of the water, I had to look away from the screen. I couldn't watch myself killing Abby at that point.
Yeah, it was.
Do you know how fucking incredible that is? That I wanted to torture this character at the beginning of the game, and by the end, I couldn't even look at the screen when I was doing it. I didn't want to do it, man.
I wish everybody could experience the game the same way that we have, because it's
one of
so
the most incredible things I've ever experienced.
It's so incredible if it lands right, because it's just insane. Like, I remember at the beginning of the game, I remember after Joel died, and I sat on Discord for like 4 hours trying to come to terms with it. Talking to Ben and a few other people. We were discussing it, and I was like, if they make me play as Abby again in this game, I'm not playing it. I'm not going to fucking finish it. Because I was just so mad at that point. But the fact that they managed to turn you around to it and like have you actually really like these characters and feel happy for Abby and Lev when they find the Fireflies, and not want Ellie to kill Abby, and not want these two characters to fight, is just incredible. And I think it's a true testament to how empathetic human beings can be when stories are so well written. And I think it's also just incredible that someone can write such convincing human beings in a piece of media. It's just insane, and that whole fight was so tough. Like, especially because the way that it's like animated and everything as well, where both of them are so fucking worn out. And you had to like get him on an even playing field as well, because obviously Abby's really fucked. But then you had to have Ellie also be like, she gets fucking impaled by that tree earlier on, and so she's lost a lot of blood. And they're both sort of on this even playing field of like both on fucking death's door fighting each other, and like the punches are so fucking weak, but they're just trying to fight each other. It's just it's insane. And also they add that layer on top where Ellie's like, you have to fight me. And to try and get Abby to fight, she puts the knife to Lev's throat, and it's like, that's fucked. It's like, Ellie, you need to fucking stop. What are you doing? Like, this is a kid.
And also, it's like Ellie's now Abby's dad, and as you said,
yeah.
Ellie is Lev, and Abby's Joel. Like, it's just fucking wild, man.
It's just this incredible parallel at that point, and that's what allows all the characters to come to that understanding of each other, because obviously it's subconscious. Like, Ellie doesn't realize this obvious parallel, but like subconsciously she realizes, like, you know, at that point she's, you know, forcing Abby's hand to fight her the same way that Abby's dad, you know, forced Joel in a sense. And so that, you know, Abby gets that understanding, but also Ellie then has that understanding of Abby and where she's coming from and the parallels between them and everything. And there's just so many layers there at that point, that everything that we've seen over the past 20 hours of the game culminates in this moment where these two characters are just fighting, but we don't want them to be fighting. And it's absolutely fucking incredible. And I have absolutely no clue how the fuck they managed it, but it's insane.
It's because it's a downer at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, what an incredible feat, and to experience that change of emotion with these characters and be totally switched up on how you feel about everyone. But then in the end, like, Ellie's journey to revenge, like, Abby gave her a second chance by letting her live, right? Abby really did.
Mm.
And you can say what you want, but Abby gave her a second chance, and Ellie took that and started a family. And then you had, you know, Lesbian Farm Simulator. Beautiful. Happy Pride Month. Last month. That was last month. My bad. But Ellie chooses revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, she lost herself. There's consequences to your revenge story. Now, Abby's gone through that fucking redemption phase, so she gave Ellie that second chance, and Ellie had a chance that not many people do to get away pretty much scot-free. She lost Jesse, but, you know, she's alright. She can live her life. But instead, she chose revenge. And what did that get her? It broke her spirit. She lost that She actually lost the connection to Joel when she goes to play that guitar, and she's lost two of her fingers. She can't play guitar anymore, and she's now lost that one big connection to Joel she still had to play guitar, and she lost her partner and family she'd built. The house is emptied out, which didn't make much sense to me, to be honest with you.
You don't think so?
I don't really understand. Why did they leave? Like, she would have been gone, what, like a couple of months? How long was she gone for? A year? Because that was it was like decrepit. The house was fucking dusty and fucked.
Well, she must have been gone for a while because she had to travel all the way across the country.
She had to travel down the west coast. She was already on.
Well, yeah.
No, she's in Jackson, right? Where's Jackson?
That's like slightly up and then like it's like northeast, I think. I can't remember exactly which state it's in. Jackson.
Is it Wyoming? Is that where it is?
Let me Google it.
Oh, I kept thinking about Seattle to Santa Barbara. It's just down the west coast, but it's not that, is it?
Missouri. Jackson County is located in the western portion of the U.S. state of Missouri. So that's, let me just look at a map just to see the distance and what that would be like. I think that might be close. Oh no! Oh, yeah, no shit. That's really far away.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's like closer to the east coast than it is the center.
So it probably would have been, and on foot in many ways.
Yeah, that would have taken a while.
Yeah,
like it took them a while to get from there to Seattle. And it
would have taken. I'm sure months passed. I'm sure months have passed, right?
Yeah.
Between, her leaving, but like Dina's like up and left their home.
Yeah.
Well, like you had a house there. Are you really, because Ellie's not there, you're just leaving?
I think Dina always wanted to go back to Jackson.
Oh really?
I think so. I think the reason they didn't go back is because Ellie couldn't go back. She couldn't like mentally like go back because it was too much for her, which is why they were out in the country, because they get like there's that letter where it's like Dina's family visited or whatever, and they were pushing them to go back to Jackson or whatever, and Ellie went off into the woods because she couldn't take it and stayed out there all day.
Oh right.
So I think it was also, you know, Dina needed support as well, probably. You know, from somebody else, because Ellie wasn't there. Like they were coping alright on their own or whatever, but you know,
yeah, of course, without
Dina
Ellie
being
there.
out there alone, you know, with their son,
it makes sense.
Needed someone else. So you know, went back to. Well, we assume they went back to Jackson. They might not. They might have fucked off somewhere else, but I doubt it.
Where else would you go?
Fuck knows. But yeah, they probably did. But yeah, that's pretty fucked. And I didn't realise until she picks up the guitar what had happened, because I didn't think, like, you know, when Abby bites her fingers off, like, oh shit, she's not going to be able to play guitar. Like, that never entered my head. I was just like, oh, that's a bit fucked. Yeah,
for sure.
But it's not until she goes in and she picks up that guitar and she tries to play the song, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's yeah, oh my God. It's really, really fucked up. But I think it's very Last of Us in the sense that it ends on, it's not just like bad. I think it's a very bittersweet ending, because we obviously see that Ellie's lost everything and that she's alone, and that's her biggest fear. We know that from the first game, but there's it's still bittersweet purely because we get that flashback to the final moments. Well, not final moments, but like the final conversation that Joel and Ellie had together, which was Ellie finally saying she wants to try and forgive Joel and move forward. And it's you can see how much that means to Joel, that finally, you know, he can have her back and they can have that relationship together. And obviously that's the moment that prompted her to forgive Abby as well.
There's also that thing, and I thought this all the way through the game, right? Was they're in such bad terms. I'm like, at some point, Ellie obviously forgave him because I remember a line stood out to me at the start when you're talking to, what's the woman's name?
Maria?
Maria, yeah. Maria goes, oh, look, Joel's this. And she goes, no, me and Joel are good. And she goes, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
So
obviously...
She says it quite flippantly, though.
I felt like she said it like, no, me and Joel are good, as in they talked. I got that vibe. So I was waiting for a moment of, like, forgiveness. Okay. So I was like, nah, something happened there. There definitely was a conversation said.
I got that as like a, just sort of like a, no, we're good, don't worry about it. But like, not like a, oh, like we're good, as in we're mates.
I don't think The Last of Us does throw away lines like that. So I took that, like, a setup to something.
Yeah. See, I didn't think that they ended on the note of like, oh, I'm coming back to Jackson, but we're done. I didn't think that was the case, but I just thought that they, like, Ellie had this resentment, but Joel still looked out for her. They still spoke, but they didn't have that close bond. That's what I always sort of expected, and that was the case. But obviously, after that night, Ellie wanted to try and properly forgive him, and I really like that they give that closure, and that they didn't end on bad terms. Because even as dark as The Last of Us can get, they still give you that that moment of knowing that even though Joel died, he died knowing that Ellie forgave him, or at least wanted to try and forgive him, because she cares about him too. And I think that's really powerful and really important. And even though Ellie is now alone, you still have that moment. And so it is this very bittersweet ending of, you get that comfort, but also the reality of her situation now is that she's alone and doesn't really have anywhere to go. I mean, she can go back to Jackson, I suppose, but will she? I don't know. Which leaves us on this, just this note of, where do they go next? Will they do another game? I don't know. There's been a lot of talk.
I'd like to see another game.
I also feel that this is almost like a 3-part story. Purely because I think that you can round this off now with, and I don't think it has to be a happy ending necessarily.
Ellie has to die, and I mean this not in she has to die for the consequence of her actions. I think the whole point of Ellie's journey is the fact that she is immune to an infection, and her life and desire is for that to mean something. That has to pay off, and that hasn't paid off yet.
So do you think they'll use her immunity and make a cure?
I don't know. Maybe. But I feel like that's the story arc that needs to be wrapped here into the third part, is Ellie accepting her destiny of what it is, and whether and it has to be involving how she feels about being immune.
Yeah, I think so too. You know what I mean? And I think on top of that, she also needs a redemption arc of her own, to be honest.
And do you know what's funny? Who can help with that? But maybe the Fireflies are an ally there. Who's going to be with the Fireflies? Yeah. Abby and Lev. I would love to play with Abby and Lev again, because they've got to come into the part 3 as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, they're not. You can't do a part 3 and it just be Ellie. Like, Abby is now an essential part of The Last of Us to me, and this story. And
so many people are going to not like that.
I don't give a fuck.
No,
I disagree because I really do think the people that don't like it are a fucking minority of people that are playing the game. This game is massively successful.
And I think that this...
And its reviews are great. Like, people love this game.
Yeah. But I think... there's someone said this on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but the amount of people... Like, the percentage of people that played The Last of Us that engage in online discussions is such a small percentage of the amount of people that played and enjoyed the game. And so... And even in that, it's split 50-50. And so the people that dislike this game, maybe online it looks like it's an overwhelming amount, but in reality, that probably isn't the case. And most people probably really like the game. And it's the most selling PS4 exclusive, right? Is that right, or am I making that up?
Or it's tracking to be right now. Like, in the time it's been released, it's the best selling, right?
It was at least like the most pre-ordered or something.
No PS4 game in the first week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, however long it's been out for, has sold as much as The Last of Us has. Partly for sure because it's more people have a PS4 now than have ever had a PS4. But
that's true.
Also, it's a massive game, and it's been anticipated for a long time. And ultimately, this game fucking paid off for me in a big way. It improved everything I wanted to see gameplay-wise from the first game. what Naughty Dog have done with how they polished it, like it's near flawless gameplay wise. The way it makes is real world problems, real world solutions. No other game has done it that way. The combat's fun, the stealth is fun, the tension's there, the environment's there, the atmosphere's there, the characters are there. All the gameplay features are there. The story's there. This is a fucking zombie game, and it's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. It is so unbelievably good to me. It's a near masterpiece. I think the writing is so good. And the way they took risks, this wasn't a safe thing they did at all. To do what they did was one of the biggest risks ever, and that's why it's divisive. But I love that they took that risk, because what it gave me is, and you as well, was an experience that landed that no other game could give, where they turned you completely around from what you wanted at the start of the game. And I have now multiple characters that I love, such appreciation for all these perspectives, and really want to see. I do want to see what's next for Ellie. Because if she can't go back to Jackson, she doesn't have that farm. Is she going to go nomad and go on her own, and she's now by herself? I feel like she's going to search for a purpose of her life, which is about her immunity to the infection. So I feel like that's got to play the final piece of the puzzle here. What began it all, which is Ellie is immune to this. What's her purpose? Who can help her? Do the Fireflies in the end help her? This small ragtag little group of Fireflies that involves Abby and Lev, and who else does that involve? And maybe actually bringing them together. It's not going to be quick. I feel like it's going to take a while, but like they're going to come into contact, and that's going to be how it's going to be. And they'll correct the mistakes of their father's past. Maybe.
That'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting to tackle that. And I'd love to see it. And also find some, have Ellie come to peace with a lot of things as well. Like, I feel like she's at a point now where she's done a lot of wrong, and she's also prioritized the wrong things as well. I'd like to see a form of redemption, but maybe in the same way Joel had, redemption in the first game, which was that Joel... We come in at a point where we don't know a lot about Joel's past, so we can very easily relate to him and think he's a good guy. Whereas obviously there's been 20 years before we see him that we don't get to see, where it's alluded to that he's killed innocent people, that he's not a good person, and we see a lot of that. When he's obviously when he kills the base of Fireflies, we see that he's not a good guy. But he has this redemption where he meets Ellie and he becomes a better person. I would like to see Ellie go through a similar similar transformation to find something, that gives her that hope and makes her feel like her life has purpose, and maybe that comes from her immunity and what she decides to do with that, and feeling like her life has meaning moving forward, and that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love this game. It's one of my, I don't know if it's top 10 all time, but it's top 15 of all-time favorite games for me.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be.
And only time will tell where it fits. But yeah, it's certainly up there with one of the best games I've ever played. I love The Last of Us Part 2 infinitely more than the first game. But it also still made me like the first game more as well. So it did both of those things at the same time. I am very excited for what's next for Last of Us, and I hope they follow through with making Part 3 down the road, because I think it deserves it, and I think you can tell a really amazing story.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Was there anything else? I'm sure we've missed little bits because we haven't got it. We could talk for 5 hours about this, but I'm sure we'll down the road in the future.
Break down every single day and go into every single detail.
But I don't want to do that. That's a bit overkill. But
yeah, I'm all set.
I'm all set too. Sad ending, morbid, but one that I really liked. The way they did it, and I felt just sort of empty and sad. But it is what it is. Here we are, and yeah. All right. That's
fantastic.
It. Let's wrap this up.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Cinema Room Podcast. Thank you to our Patreon producers, King Richard III, Damian, Avry Dobbs, Josh Devillier, Adam Sundling. I'm just going to call you Alberic, Cap94, Viridian, Real Cinnamon Hawkins, a.k.a. HBus12, and Bullsack47. If you're listening on YouTube, or SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, this came out 24 hours early on Patreon. So, you could have got access to that 24 hours early. And usually they'll be more than 24 hours early. Or what are we doing with that in the future? Because if we're only going to... Are we changing how we do Cinema Room? I know we're talking business.
We
again,
don't know. But we don't even know. We're just
No.
right now. This is 24 hours early. It's always going to be early access.
Right now,
that's for sure. It's always going to be early access.
That's the point. Okay.
This
cool.
episode's 24 hours. We've done that before with like Avengers Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
It'll always be
Yeah,
early
true.
access of Patreon.
It
But
will.
sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes 24. We haven't figured that out yet. We're still working it out. But right now we're just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Right now we're just going with the flow.
So if you are listening on those other services on the public stuff, this was out early on Patreon, so you can get early access to any other cinema rooms that come out in the future, early access on Patreon, as well as exclusive access to the Clubhouse podcast and early access to any big projects either of us decide to work on in the future, such as my fat retrospectives like The Last of Us 1 and The Witcher 1. So that's cool. If you are interested in supporting us, that'd be what you would get in return for that. So there you go. But thank you to everybody that is pledging $5 or more. We've got King Richard III, Damian, Avry Dobbs, Josh Devillier, Adam Sundling, Olberic, Cat94, Viridian, Real Cinnamon Hawkins, aka HBarts12, Bullsack47, Casey Wood, Pink Flame 313, Henry Sicarius, aka Kieran, Kevin Bond, Aminal, Justin, Timana Travis, Alfie Rosell, Uga Booga, Chigo, Wooga, Tuga, Mooga, Luga, Suga, Vuga, Puga, Ruga, Suga, Zuga, Yuga, Duga, Jesper Olsen, Lumistrad, Mario 5380, Kim Osabe Gamer, Cream Pies, Seth, Cum, Nick the Gaming Prick, Madeline McCann was snapped by Thanos, The Creed, Big Boy Barnsey, Josh J. Anderson, Andy Cure, Fat Fuck Cuck, Froggy Blowjob at the Bit of Stone, aka BQ Overlord, Matt Simps, Elton John, Ravjai, Mackie the Ben, but then also Ben Dissard, 1989, Philip Stillwagon, Kyle, Mag, aka the guy that makes his own Assassin Christmas, loves a lobster up his ass, Greenies, Weenie, Bleeding Edge 274, No Mojo, Benedict Clobbers, Gwen Hughes, 2018, 1998, 20, The Blue Cow, Max H, Gina's doing bits in the coal mines, Owen Brain, Son of a Bitch, OG Adogo, Heresy, aka Bat Assassin, Noah Watts, Furious Coco, Fickle Wickle, Suck My Pickle, Sab2557, Star Explorer, Nick Miller, Heyman, Aerith Simpir, aka Jas Notter, Radok, Poplop is not dead, Smexy Dork, Kassassin, Kyle, S. Jaws, Marcus, aka Blackburn, Victor Eliasson, Emil Catbook, Joshua Mora, Walshy Desad, 1989, Ginkgo Swag, Chunky Bit of Cum, Keralt of Rivia, aka Casper Coral, My Dick, Quick, Slick, Thick, Hard as a Brick, In a Chick, by the way, my name is Rick, Alexander, Master Bass, Ashton, aka The Weekend Simp, but I don't simp conversations because they suck, Creed Landmarks, Sin, and by the way, Chris Chibnall can't write a script to save his life and gets pegged by Jodie Whittaker, but I simp on conversations more.
Who is that? Can you explain that one to me?
Who? What? Sin. That's one of my mates, Jake. We used to make Minecraft videos together, and Chris Chibnall is the lead writer for Doctor Who, and Jodie Whittaker plays the Doctor now. And Chris Chibnall fucking sucks, and he gets pegged.
Okay.
Joe,
yeah, cool.
Joe the Sexy Boy Smith, Joe aka the sex addicted cocaine snorting founded scarab, aka Mackie Desad. Fucking Christ. Give me your penis. Connor's fat cock broke me. Evan Brown, Winona Ryder, aka Lindsay from Destination Wedding. Luca, Alfie Robert, a bitter biting bitten bit a better brother bitten and the bitter better bitten bit the bitter biter back. Liam Fishy, Jack DG 1998, Gamer Vids. Lewis is imploring James and Tyler to watch Mackie 1989, as it is without a shadow of a doubt, masterclass in cinema. Billy the Tim Tyler, Captain Robertson, and Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Thank you all so much for continued support. I hate that so much. And also, we have to read it again because we're doing Clubhouse. So that's going to be great fun. All right, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon for another Cinema Room, I'm sure, at some point. Don't expect it soon, though. That was a lie. I don't know when we're going to do it.
Who knows? Ghost of Tsushima?
We will, though. Yeah, potentially, probably. If it's, worth talking about, it could suck. So,
yeah, it could really suck. Who's to say? Who's to know? I don't know yet.
No, I don't know at all.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, we know people that have review copies, but, someone like Eddie would just love it because he's retarded, so it doesn't really, no, you won't know if it's actually good.
What do you mean?
Eddie's got a review copy, so he's playing it.
No, he doesn't.
Doesn't he?
No, why would Eddie have a fucking review copy?
I don't know. He tweeted out the home screen and said, I got a review copy.
Oh, yeah, that was a joke. Because
was it?
The PlayStation account tweeted out the home screen, so he was tweeting out.
I was like, oh, wow,
everybody.
Eddie's got a review copy. That's cool.
Oh,
I was like, I wondered how he got that.
No. He baited you.
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't really much of a bait, because, it's just something that I'd be like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, oh my god.
No, it's just a lie.
Oh, right. Okay, that's weird. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
That joke missed. Anyway, thank you again for listening. Goodbye.
See you later, boys. Bye-bye.